Okay, good morning, everybody. Welcome to a KEZAD Group sponsored West London Chambers of Commerce seminar about unlocking new markets for trade, especially with United Arab Emirates. We are very grateful today to have Valeria and Jameela with us this morning from United Arab Emirates, together with Hitesh talking a little about finance for international trade at the end of this. My name's Alan Rides. I'm the CEO of the Chamber of Commerce. So, we are going to try to bring a little bit of sunshine into everybody's lives in the UK, directly to you from the United Arab Emirates this morning. Valeria, Jameela, what's the weather like in Dubai or Abu Dhabi, wherever you are this morning?
Good morning, everyone. Thank you, Alan, for your introduction. Today, it's interesting because today we have a cloudy weather, so no sun in the sky. And it's interesting because it's very rarely happens in the United Arab Emirates.
Well, I can tell you, looking out of the window here, we have blue sky and sunshine. So congratulations, you've already exported some sunny weather to us in the UK. We're very grateful. Jameela, I could spot you with your camera coming on for a second. I know you had another call a little bit earlier, so we're very grateful of you being able to join us on time. Ahlan wa sahlan.
Thank you. Thank you, Alan.
Okay, so if everybody could turn their cameras on, I can just they can all say a little hello to everybody who's joining us on this webinar this morning. So we have you haven't met Hitesh before, Jameela. Hitesh is a finance expert working locally with local companies here. And one of the biggest problems for small companies when they trade internationally is finding customers. That's where you can help with Valeria. But then once they've got some business, the next hurdle that they come up against is getting the finance to work with that and manufacture the goods and export them. So we've asked Hitesh to join us as well to be the final part in that jigsaw. For this morning, we're very, very grateful for KEZAD to sponsor this morning's event. So I'm going to say a little bit about what our Chamber of Commerce does, our international trade program, and I'm then going to lead into some of the trade that the UK generally does with United Arab Emirates, and then I'll hand over to you, Valeria and Jameela, for your main presentation this morning for us. Is that okay? Okay, so I'm going to swiftly move into sharing my screen. Has that come up okay for everybody to see?
Yes.
Okay, thank goodness you're not going to tell me I'm on mute after saying all of that. So, West London Chambers of Commerce has been around for just over 100 years of helping local businesses be successful and trade internationally. One of the cut glass windows in our office has a wonderful picture about commerce, and we call this woman, I call this woman Sally. Who normally is the person who hosts these events for us. So, business in our part of West London comes to around just under $1 million a year. Sorry, $1 billion a year. Sorry, 1 billion people. Get this right in a second. 1 million people a year in the population of West London, with a GDP in West London of 40 billion. That's larger than Manchester or Birmingham, and equates to the biggest part of the UK's London economy after the city, and we are around a quarter of the total UK economy. Our secret strength is the port of Heathrow, through which $450 billion worth of goods a year flow, making it the biggest port in the UK. Our board of directors are made up of local business people and are here to help local companies. Our Chamber of Commerce won an award from the British government for delivering the best support for exporting in the whole of the UK recently. And I personally won an award for the Queen's Award for Exporting from our late Majesty the Queen. I'm also a former British government trade officer. So where is the UK in Europe? The UK is the second biggest economy in Europe, just behind Germany, but ironically, it has a much smaller population. So on a basis of person for person, we believe we're about the same as Germany. Where do we rate in the world? In terms of exporters, we're the fourth biggest exporter on the planet, with just behind China, United States, and Germany, but critically ahead of Japan and France. And since 2021, when this graph was done, UK exports have increased to over $1 trillion, which is a 25% growth in 3 years, which is quite exceptional. Again, I highlight the size of the Chinese, United States, and German populations. We do quite well. We are the fifth biggest exporter of goods, but more importantly, the second biggest exporter of services. Investment in the UK to keep us ahead of the game, especially in things like AI, puts us the third biggest investor in AI in the world, only with the United States and China leading the way. But critically for the UK, if you add up all of the European countries together, they don't come to the same amount of investment that the UK is putting into AI. London is the fourth biggest or wealthiest city in the world, in today's world. And recently, to state the obvious, we left the EU. But we now need to search for new markets for the UK to export goods to. We have signed free trade agreements all around the world since then, and we are working on negotiating an agreement with the GCC countries at the moment. The services that our Chamber of Commerce offer to local companies is complete, from company registration, office setup, legal, accountancy, and full support. And we offer regular Department for Business and Trade updates on trade with GCC, which is one of our largest trading blocks, valued at £33 billion. And exports to the United Arab Emirates account for around half of that amount, which is quite significant, again, considering the population of the United Arab Emirates, and above Saudi Arabia, which is increasing in volume of exports fast. So I'll say a couple of little words about United Arab Emirates. And with apologies, my pictures are from Dubai, where I once had an office. The truth is that in UAE, not every day is sunny, a bit like today. This was my old office in Jebel Ali Free Trade Zone. And those were some of my staff going to work on the right-hand side. And I went out to the Palm one day and visited the Atlantis Hotel, of which they've got a fantastic marine SeaWorld perspective. And I spotted this young lad on the left-hand side looking up at all these fantastic fish. And then suddenly a shark appeared on the right-hand picture, and he spotted the shark and ran away. And my moral of that story is that there are lovely things to see in the United Arab Emirates of cutting-edge design and futuristic images, but there are also sharks around, and you need to choose your friends well. And choosing your friends is what today's event is all about, with Jameela and Valeria from our partners in today's event. The thing that I'd like everybody to think about as well is that the reason why trade with the United Arab Emirates is so important is that it offers a trading post between all of the neighbouring very wealthy countries, as it pictured in this slide. So I'm going to stop sharing at this point and ask Jameela and Valeria if they would like to turn their screens on and bring up a slide. And I hopefully have put a taste in everybody's mouth to want to trade more with the United Arab Emirates. Trade is up well, and we look forward to hearing all about KEZAD Group. Thank you.
Thank you, Alan. So thank you everyone for joining us today. Good morning. It's the afternoon, right after lunch in Abu Dhabi right now. So basically, I will take you through KEZAD as an opportunity to unlock new markets. But before doing that, I would like to take you through a few information on the United Arab Emirates. So these are number-heavy slides. We will share the slides with you after the presentation. But this just showcases the UAE's competitive index, not just in the MENA region, but also across the globe. Primarily, if we're focusing today on FDI in the UAE, you'll see that the United Arab Emirates is the first in the Middle East region and the fourth globally when it comes to recipients of greenfield projects. If we're looking at Abu Dhabi itself, these are some of the competitive metrics that we have. So we have a strong and growing economy where currently we are at the top 30 of the UAE's economy, is among the top 30 globally. Abu Dhabi itself contributes to the United Arab Emirates GDP by over 60%. We have excellent infrastructure where basically the people living within Abu Dhabi have access to 80% of the world within an 4 to 8 hours flight. If we're looking at pro-business policies, the policies in Abu Dhabi and the UAE continues to evolve to ensure that we are attracting FDI into Abu Dhabi. So as an example, for example, in the past, foreign businesses would need to have local partners in order for them to establish a business. Now, in the past 4 to 5 years, it's been introduced where basically businesses could establish their facilities and their businesses within Abu Dhabi with 100% foreign ownership. And this is primarily to encourage FDI into the United Arab Emirates. If we're looking at the high quality of life, Abu Dhabi as a city is the #1 safest city in the world, and it's the 9th best city for expats and to live in, and basically the #1 happiest city in the Arab region. Now, as a business ecosystem within Abu Dhabi, although we do not necessarily offer these services, but what we do is we work as an ecosystem. So, for example, if an investor comes to KEZAD today or to any other entity within Abu Dhabi, they will notice the ease of doing business. They will notice that we are an enabling environment in terms of we have several entities that would support different type of businesses according to their requirements. For example, if the business requires access to finance, then we have government incentives, we have venture capitals, we have several entities such as Emirates Development Bank that would support the financing of these projects, especially if these projects align with the UAE's strategy and whatnot. When it comes to talent pool, we will connect them to the right people. Research universities are available. So the ecosystem really supports any investor with regards to their accessibility into the market. Now, I'm going to showcase a video of our economic zones before I take you through KEZAD. And basically, this just gives you an idea of what KEZAD is about so that when I take you through it, you have a better understanding of the key clusters that we have. And all of the footage in this video is shot from our economic zones. So hopefully the video gives you an idea of what KEZAD is, and we'll take you through more details within the next few minutes as well. So basically, KEZAD is part of Abu Dhabi Ports Group, where we have 5 different clusters. So we have the ports cluster, where we are operating over 30 ports across the globe. We have the maritime cluster, where we have where it takes care of the servicing of the ports, but we also have our own vessels and taking care of offshore projects. And these are some of the companies under the maritime cluster. Then we have the logistics cluster, where we've acquired Nuatum. It is one of Europe's leading logistic companies, and they have also taken over our Middle East operations. We also have a digital cluster that takes care, it doesn't only take care of the innovative tech solutions for each of the economic zones, but also it provides innovative solutions to our investors to ensure that they have easy access to our services. So, for example, if a business wants to register their business with KEZAD, there's an online platform, and within 1 week, they're able to have their business registered within our economic zones. For example, if they're using the logistics or the ports or maritime services, there's live tracking to their shipment or whatnot. But basically, this just showcases that being part of Abu Dhabi Ports Group would support any investor with regards to their supply chain solutions. So when it comes to KEZAD, basically 60% of the industrial activity in the United Arab Emirates takes place in Abu Dhabi. So this is a map of the United Arab Emirates. The dark blue area is Abu Dhabi. Anything is in red is under our jurisdiction. We have 12 economic zones spread across different areas within Abu Dhabi. And we have 550 square kilometer of land. So the total land bank that we have is around 550 square kilometers. Now, out of the majority of this is based in the mainland, and then 100 square kilometer of the 550 is free zone. So this showcases that a lot of the investors are interested to invest more in the mainland rather than the free zone, and we'll take you through the benefits of both in the next few slides. But basically, each of these areas cater to different type of projects. So depending on the company and the business and what they would like to do, we would place them in the right economic zones. So for example, if they want to import and export and need to be closer to the ports, then we would locate them in the zones and the areas that are close to that. However, if they want to collaborate within, let's say, the metals ecosystem, or let's say the polymers ecosystem, where they would like to, for example, supply and obtain the raw material and the feedstock, then we would also place them in the right economic clusters. Currently, we have over 2,000 clients that are operating within our economic zones. Majority of them are manufacturing and distributing through our economic zones. So basically, the title of today's presentation is Unlocking New Markets. So what that means is, because of our strategic location in the United Arab Emirates, companies that are manufacturing or establishing a presence in KEZAD are able to access 80% of the world via a 4 to 8 hour flight via 5 international airports. We have, for example, 8 international ports within a close proximity within our economic zones. We have Etihad Rail going through the key hubs within our zone to support with logistics as well. And then Khalifa Port itself has different functionalities, which we will showcase in the next few slides. But basically, when it comes to doing your business in KEZAD, it means that your market is not just Abu Dhabi and the UAE, but the entire globe, and there's easy access to it via the multimodal connectivity that we enjoy within our zones. So Khalifa Port itself has several capabilities, which is okay, which you would used to see it from my window, but now we have a big screen behind, but it's just across the street, where basically Khalifa Ports has a different capability. So the major container terminals are operating from Khalifa Port. So you have Costco, MSC, CMA. Each of them would have their own terminal to operate from within Khalifa Ports. We have an LNG terminal. We have the Roro hub, where basically we have an auto terminal for the automotive industry. We have reefer cargo and silos as well, all within Khalifa Ports. And Khalifa Port has access to over 3.5 billion people within the region. So basically, you would have access to the Middle East, Africa, Indian subcontinent, North America, and Europe as well. So what does KEZAD have in terms of offering for businesses and for investors that want to invest in KEZAD? We have serviced land plots for companies to come and rent and build their own facilities for 50 years, up to 99 years renewable. And then basically, we also have pre-built facilities for companies that want to start small. So they would like to do light industrial activities, companies that don't require high power, they could opt for a pre-built facility. If they would like to do logistics or distribution within our economic zones, we have the warehouses available as well. For the F&B projects and for the pharmaceuticals, we have cold stores. So we do have this pre-built option as well for companies to rent until they're ready to scale up and build their own facility. We have also built solutions. So basically, if an international company wants to come in, doesn't want to take in the project management, the hassle of the project management of construction, then we have an in-house team to support them and build the facility for them. We also have commercial spaces, and we have staff accommodation as well as startup and SME offerings. So basically, companies would register their business with us and they're able to operate via KEZAD. We also have industrial utilities. So any industrial companies need when it comes to energy is available within our economic zones, such as gas, waste management, treated water, and cooling. So as I've mentioned, we have both jurisdictions, free zone and mainland. And it all depends on what the company wants to do. If the company wants to import and export, then and not cater to the local market, then they would go to the free zone, where they would have 100% foreign ownership, 0% customs duty, no VAT, and no minimum capital requirements. However, if the company would like to get the benefits of, let's say, the government incentives or the funding from the government entities, then they would opt for the mainland. And also, they would like to cater more to the local market. So they would get 100% foreign ownership as well, 0% customs duty on the industrial raw materials as well as their machinery. And they would get to have the Made in the UAE certificate, where basically this would support them with duty-free trade across the GCC and the GAFTA region. So unlocking new markets would mean they're not only catering to the UAE, but also to the countries where we have comprehensive economic agreements with, such as India, Indonesia, Turkey, and Cambodia. Now, these markets are effective right now. Any company that is operating from the UAE is like they're operating from India. So there's absolutely free trade between both countries, and there are many more countries that are being added into the pipeline. So we've recently signed a CEPA agreement with Ukraine. So it's going to come into effect in the next, let's say, year or so. We've also signed with several countries. So over 15 countries are in the pipeline. We've also signed with Australia to be effective within the next year or so. And then basically within KEZAD, we take a clustered approach. So we have over 17 sectors that we are focusing on, but these are just some of the clusters that we have within our economic zones. So we have the metals, oil and gas, life science, and whatnot. So some of them are more where we have established our key strengths in. So such as metals and the oil and gas, where we have upstream, midstream, and downstream industries in each of these zones. But also we are mirroring the UAE and the Abu Dhabi government's strategy of diversifying our economy and also contributing to the non-oil GDP. So some of these sectors are life sciences, food and ag tech, and these are some of, let's say, the sectors where the government is looking to support in terms of incentives when they come into the UAE. And you'll see some of the big names here and the big logos, let's say, of the companies that are operating within our economic zones. So again, within each of the clusters that we have, we are investing to ensure that the companies that are within each of these clusters are growing sustainably. So, for example, industrial companies in the metal industry have access, let's say, they require, for example, metal in the liquid form. So we've invested in the hot rolled metal to support them with regards to obtaining this commodity. For example, in the automotive industry, we've recently completed Rahail, which is an area for the automotive industry, but it primarily caters to the local market. And we're in the process of developing a global auto hub, which is a 3.3 square kilometer of land that caters to the imports and exports of the automotive vehicles. In the food and ag tech, we are currently working on an ag tech development in Al Ain area in the United Arab Emirates, which is set to be one of the region's largest tech-enabled fresh produce farming hub. We're also working with Rungis in France to develop an Abu Dhabi food hub and to develop a similar concept to Rungis. Similarly, we don't only cater to the industrial activity, but also to logistics and retail. So some of your big companies such as Amazon and Noon are operating within our zones where they also have their distribution hubs in KEZAD. So there are several strategic partnerships per cluster that we are working on, and I'm happy to connect with any company that's interested in any of these clusters to elaborate more on these. And basically, these are just some of the mega projects that have launched last year and are set to launch this year and the next year. So I'm not sure if you're aware of MTEL, but basically this is one of the companies that KEZAD has visited 2 years ago, around 2 years ago. And last year, during Q3 2024, they have established a presence in KEZAD. So what happened was that they were interested in building their factory, and we supported them with the build-to-suit solution in order for them to operate from Abu Dhabi. And these are more projects that we are working on within the next few years. We've also recently launched KEZAD Metal Park. So I say recently, which is probably, I think, yesterday. We've launched the Metal Park, and this is primarily to support the metal industry as well. So companies that don't necessarily require large spaces and whatnot could rent facilities from Metal Park, and they could rent manpower from Metal Park, and they could do several activities within that zone as well. So it really, in KEZAD, we try to support small to medium businesses as well as large companies and their scale-up activities. So basically, just to reiterate on our values when it comes to dealing with investors, we make sure that we offer the clients a one-stop shop when it comes to setting up their operations. So we ensure that there is speed, not just when it comes to responsiveness, but also when they would like to register their business. It's all within our jurisdiction. When it comes to scale, we support businesses from small to large corporations, as well as their scale-up activities. When it comes to community, we don't just have over 40 residential cities, but also we work as a community in terms of supporting the companies from the get-go. So supporting them with the right introductions, also supporting them once they establish to communicate with the rest of KEZAD residents as well. And when it comes to, let's say, cost and predictability, we ensure that our utility rates are the most competitive, not just in the UAE, but across the region. But also when it comes to predictability, there are no hidden, let's say, costs. Everything is clear from the get-go. So the companies that are investing in KEZAD would know what they're paying for, not just upfront, but for years to come to support with their financial studies as well and as their forecasting. And this is my contact details. I also have Valeria with me on the call. If there's anything you need, you can reach out to both of us, and we'll also share the presentation with you. I'm not sure if we'd like to answer any questions now or at the end of the session.
Jameela, thank you very, very much. Shukran Gazilan. Mumtaz, thank you very much for your presentation. It's really good. I have a couple of quick questions for you. Then we're going to move on to Hitesh for his short presentation about finance. And then we'll do some Q&As from everybody. But my couple of quick questions for you are, can you talk a little about the difference between each one of the Emirates in the United Arab Emirates? Why should they choose one instead of another? What's the difference between Fujairah and Al Ain?
Okay, so Alan, I think my primary jurisdiction is Abu Dhabi and
Okay.
So, but what I can speak about is basically each of the business would require different, let's say, would have different requirements. So, for example, if we're going to compare between Abu Dhabi and Al Ain, right? If the company is in the ag tech sector, or is in the F&B or in the agricultural sector, then definitely Al Ain would be the perfect place for them because there is a whole ecosystem around it. Now, for example, within our economic zones, different locations, right? If a company is within the heavy industry, then they would be located where all the big players are. So it really depends. Now, the rest of the Emirates, basically, each of the Emirates would have their own, let's say, benefits. But what I could say is that Abu Dhabi is primarily focused on industry. So industrial companies or manufacturing companies would require a bigger amount of land, and that's available within Abu Dhabi, 550 square kilometers. They need energy. Energy is available in Abu Dhabi at a really low cost compared to other, let's say, cities or other emirates. Gas, it's all available within our infrastructure. The metal road that I've mentioned. So it really depends on what these companies would like to do. If they're in the service sector, financial sector, logistics and whatnot, they could potentially, we also have different zones and hubs within Abu Dhabi, but from a KEZAD point of view, it's purely industrial.
Wonderful, thank you. I think in summary, what you've said is it's very much like the United Kingdom, where we have England, Wales, Scotland, and Northern Ireland. And if you want to be in the car manufacturing sector, then you're better to be around the Birmingham area where most of the UK's cars are built. You have a whole infrastructure around you there. Okay. And can you say a little bit about the clients? You mentioned a huge amount of clients that you have. Do they export from UAE out to other countries in the region as well?
100%, yes. So basically, if we look at the area of KEZAD A, it's basically where a lot of the free zone companies or manufacturing companies are based, where it's easier for them to be closer to the port to import and export. But also, if you look at this, there's a major highway also connecting Abu Dhabi and our economic zones to the regions such as Oman and Saudi Arabia and Qatar.
Wonderful, wonderful. And my final question for you is, how long does it take to register a foreign company in a free trade zone? And how long does it take to register on the mainland?
So honestly, on the mainland, I'm not quite sure of the timelines, but within our economic zones, we're very responsive and very fast. So depending on the immigration approvals, within 1 week or so, a company is able to register their business. But again, we need to clarify that yes, while registering the business is within our jurisdiction, we still rely on immigration for security approvals. And that is where the glitch may be in terms of it taking time. But from our side, everything is done internally, and it's a very easy process as well.
You are not alone in having those security concerns when anybody registers a business. We have the same thing here in the United Kingdom. Don't worry. So can you please stop sharing now, and we can then move on to Hitesh to talk a little about how you can finance your trade with the United Arab Emirates and KEZAD. Over to you, Hitesh.
Thank you very much, Alan. Thanks, Alan and Summer and the team at West London Chambers for having me today. That was a very good presentation by Jameela. Nice to meet you, Jameela and Valeria. You've certainly brought the sunshine here today. It's nice and sunny in the UK for once. So, you know, that's great news. But yeah, I'm just going to tell you a little bit about what I do, and I'm going to share my screen just to give you a brief idea of how I can help local SMEs and local businesses from the UK to trade, import and export to Abu Dhabi, where you've got some amazing opportunities available. So I think, you know, it would be great to, you know, take this further and help our local companies to access finance, not just from the UK, but also from all the incentives that you have in Abu Dhabi. So I'm just going to share my screen now. Here we go. Brilliant. I hope everyone can see that. So my name is Hitesh Kanadia, director. I am a broker for a company called Modern Finance Solutions, which I started about 8-9 years ago. And a little bit about myself. We're basically a professionally qualified finance broker. We're authorized by the Financial Conduct Authority in the UK. So we're regulated. So, we've got to make sure that everything that we do is above board, it's compliant, and it meets all the regulations. So in terms of finance, it's very important that we know who our customers are and who we deal with. And our customers can come to us with total confidence that they're dealing with somebody professional. And obviously we have a range of funding options, not limited just to the UK, but for import-export as well. So this is just a little bit about myself. Moving on, what do we actually do? So, apart from just helping local businesses in the UK, we also help companies with their export and trade finance options. Now, in this particular section, there are a lot of topics, a lot of sections, all different types of finance. Not everyone knows what type of finance they require, what type of funding they need for their own requirement. So if they're going to be exporting goods over to UAE or any other country for investment, can they get the investment from the UK first of all? How do they raise finance, and how do they invoice out? So there are a lot of options available, and what basically we do is we make sure that we guide the investor, the business, the SME to the most appropriate finance option, whether that's funding for buying stock to export, or whether it's just for purely exporting. Because when you're exporting or importing, or you're doing any kind of business-to-business transaction, usually how it works is that you would raise an invoice, you get a purchase order from your import or export company, whether it's in the UK or Abu Dhabi, and the whole transaction could take 2 or 3 months. Now, for a company to grow, they're going to be stuck for finance for at least 3 months and not have anything coming in. So this is where we've provided lots of facilities around revolving credit, trade finance. And we work with basically UK Export Finance and the right lenders to make sure that we can give you access to that funding and that you have your cash flow in place, so that you're not supplying stuff and then running out of money. So basically, to keep it short, we help with the most suitable solution. Moving on, just a couple of very small stats, just to say that because a lot of customers, a lot of SMEs don't know where to go for finance, over 70% of their applications are declined because they didn't meet the lending criteria. Now, imagine going to the wrong lender for the right loan and they can't help. So, well, what do? We help match the right lender. We know exactly what your needs are, what your challenges are, and we help you to access that right from the start to finish. So there's a lot of information here. I'm not going to bore you with everything, but in short, the difference we can make is, look, we've helped companies access finance where previously they've gone to a lender, they've been declined, or their accounts went up to scratch, or there was something that didn't meet the lender's criteria. So we pre-package everything, we pre-qualify our clients' needs to make sure that they are ready and they're prepared to go to a lender, and the lender will look at the application and say, right, okay, you've ticked all the boxes, you've presented the whole deal to us, yes, you qualify for finance, and the rest is just indicative terms and access to finance. So I'm not going to keep it too long. It's very simple for just a brief, just to tell you about what we do, but we basically help companies to access finance where they have previously been unsuccessful. Just one example here of a drinks wholesaler who was exporting overseas, and when they went to their local bank, with a turnover of £7 million for exporting, they needed £250,000 worth of facility, but they were declined. How did we manage to help them? Well, we worked with UK Export Finance through their 80% government guarantee scheme. So that absolutely helps the local UK Export Finance support businesses to export and work and overcome any challenges. So that's basically a very brief presentation from what I do. And that's basically my details here. If anybody wants to find out more information, feel free to connect me. We don't charge any fees. Our service is totally free of charge. And we absolutely help businesses to access finance by matching the right lender, by helping package the application. And of course, there's fantastic opportunities in Abu Dhabi, where we've got I've got clients that I deal with now that are looking to work and do business in Abu Dhabi, and it'd be great to have someone like Jameela and Valeria in Abu Dhabi to help us with the investments and the investments to grow the local SMEs from the UK into Abu Dhabi. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen there. And really just a short section about what I do. Lovely to meet you all. Thank you very much.
Wonderful. What a fantastic presentation again. Jameela, I hope you understand now the reason why I wanted Hitesh to come on the presentation is because a lot of the blockage with UK companies wanting to reach out and export is for fear of getting a big order and not being able to supply it because they don't have the facilities internally to be able to produce such a big piece of business when their UK business is underlying everything that they do. But with help from the British government's UK Export Finance Department that Hitesh works with, that can be overcome. And a lot of people don't realise that. And the other thing is that they can't go directly to that department. They have to go via a finance broker like Hitesh. So can I open the floor up, starting with Samar or anybody else who's on the webinar to ask any questions? Samar, over to you.
Well, first, it's very good presentation, Jameela and Hitesh and yourself, Alan. That's great. And I will say it was nice to hear from Jameela about the mega project set to expand in Abu Dhabi. And we know UK and UAE, they have very good relation and many sectors, different sectors we covered, like investment, trade, tourism, energy. So all you covered it, Jameela. So a small question or a question, like how important is for businesses to understand the culture differences when expanding to the UAE? What do you think, Jameel? I mean, you covered it, but just like to sum it up.
I haven't really thought about it because I think doing business with the United Arab Emirates is I would say we have, as you mentioned, a long-standing relationship. It's not just in terms of trade, but it's also cultural. If you come here, you'll see international. There are over 200 nationalities operating from Abu Dhabi and the United Arab Emirates. So we're quite global, multinational, multicultural. So I think they wouldn't really much notice a difference. It's as if they're operating within the same ecosystem or same cultural elements, I would say. The good thing about, let's say, living in the United Arab Emirates is that each would get to keep their own, let's say, religion, their own ethic, their own culture, but also be tolerant to others. So it doesn't really affect each and everyone's practice. We respect it, we give each and everyone their space, and it's not really necessarily a topic or a concern for companies and people working in the UAE. As you may know, a lot of the global companies, global UK companies have their headquarters, their Middle East headquarters based here in the United Arab Emirates. So I think it's not too, I don't think doing business in the UAE would be too foreign for them if we're talking from a cultural perspective?
Myself, I have been to Abu Dhabi a few times, and really I enjoyed it, and it's very safe. One thing which is really extremely safe. That's so encouraging, for companies to start and to work for the first time when the companies whom they are there already. So really, I just, because of the time constraint, we have covered, everything, the trade, the investment, the opportunities. And as Alan said about the warm and the sunshine there, so the UAE is definitely, and Abu Dhabi is the place to be. That's my conclusion for a very good webinar today.
So I can add on to a little bit of that. I used to have an office in Jabal Ali Free Trade Zone. I've travelled and driven over to Abu Dhabi to see some of the embassy staff and teams there for different countries. And I've driven to Al Ain up in the mountains, inland from the coast. I've met lots of people from Fujairah who've come to the UK, and Ras Al Khaimah who've come to the UK to do presentations. It's certainly the safe, secure, welcoming hub for doing business in the whole of the Gulf area, and even East Africa area, and is a wonderful stepping stone into trade with India. I would heartily recommend any companies who are looking to enter the UAE market, get in touch with us, get in touch with Valeria, get in touch with Jameela, and talk to KEZAD Company, who can help them enormously. And if you need any finance assistance, have a talk to Hitesh. We're coming up to 11 o'clock, and I'm looking at the Q&A section. There's no questions in there. Jameela, as the sponsor for today, we're very grateful for you sponsoring today's event. Would you like to make any closing remarks for people?
No, I think I just want to thank everyone for joining us today, and thank you for hosting us as well and organizing the webinar. And we'll be happy to support any companies that would like to establish a presence here in the Middle East and in Abu Dhabi specifically.
Okay, so I've spotted a little bit of input from Basil Fernandez, who says, completely agree with you, Alan. UAE is the #1 market for the Middle East and the GCC countries for everybody to go to. I would like to remind everybody as well that this is recorded and gets posted on our YouTube channel, a link to which can be sent round to everybody, which you can then share with all of your database to get more views on this later on, where we normally get double, triple or quadruple the number of people viewing today. But for today, thank you very, very much for all of your inputs from Hitesh, from Jameela, from Valeria, and from Samar, and to the organizer and the root of today, Lisa Rides. Thank you. Have a great day, everybody. Enjoy some UK sunshine. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.